Right. Welcome, everyone. We are going to give it just a minute or so to give everyone a chance to get in here. Thank you for joining us. We'll get started in just one more minute or so. Welcome, everyone. We'll just give it another 30 seconds before we get started today. All right. I think we can go ahead and get started. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for our coffee session here on February 10th, 2026. Like usual, we will be taking you through a few prepared topics today and then getting to as many of your questions as we can. My name is Tyler Shakwa. I work for the training and outreach team here at ETS, and I will guide us all through those topics. And like usual, the chat is closed for participants, but we'll use that to send you some links. But any questions that you have, you can put in the Zoom Q&A feature, and those will either be answered in the background by our colleagues at ETS or CDE that are on the call today, or we'll bring them up out loud as well. If you would like to download materials for today's session, you can go to our training page where they always are, but you can also get there by going through our link tree. You can get there by going to linktr.ee/Cal Outreach. You select upcoming training opportunities and then find that coffee session under the current month of February where you can download the resource guide that has links and everything that we're planning on talking about today, as well as the PowerPoint slides if you want them. And we've got a link dropped in the chat by Sylvia as well. Thank you, Sylvia. Agenda for today. So like usual, we'll go through some training opportunities that are upcoming, educator opportunities, and some new and updated resources. And then a special topic, a little bit of the summative alternate ELPAC participation requirements. And then some usual topics of test security, as well as stairs, and some call drivers and reminders. And then any questions and answers at the end that we haven't gotten to already. So let's dive into some training opportunities that are upcoming for us. So um, quite a few special opportunities for some training coming up soon, and a few that are offered by others. So starting with the accessibility resources from classroom to assessments webinar, which is hosted by the Statewide Literacy Office in collaboration with the CDE Assessment Development and Administration Division. So they're going to have a 1-hour webinar on February 11th on the topic of accessibility resources for state assessments. So that will be a great opportunity to learn a little bit more about accessibility resources. There's going to be a coordinator, another new coordinator webinar, the 10th one in this series this year that will focus on completion tracking and security. That will be on February 19th. And then a charter school assessment coordinator quarterly network meeting that will be on February 25th. We also have our Connect for Success series that continues. So on February 25th, there'll be a Connect for Success session focused on the summative CAASPP. And those are opportunities where you get to kind of have a more open and direct communication with your success agents. So especially if you have not met your designated success agents, those are really great opportunities to get to know them and get some timely information as well. And then The formative assessment shared practices webinar series continues. I think there was one already in January that was great, and there's a couple more coming up on February 12th. There's a webinar by teachers for teachers unlocking classroom ready science resources. And on February 26th, professional learning resources for supporting English learners. So that's always a great series where you get to hear from educators and see what folks are doing with different formative assessment related resources, especially tools for teachers. So definitely check those out. We've got a few SIRS trainings that are ongoing. These the SIRS Beyond the Basics training series are a great way to kind of get a little bit more in depth about the functionality that SIRS offers. So on February 17th, there'll be Module 1, Rostering and Reports for Coordinators and Administrators. February 24th is Module 2, Custom Groups and Individual Student Reports. And then March 3rd is Module 3, Writing Extended Response Scores and Related Resources. All right, lastly, I said we had a lot of them, a lot of good stuff coming up. There is a webinar about a new tool website called Atlas, which stands for Authentic Tasks for Learning and Assessment in Science. So that webinar is on March 5th. If you haven't heard of Atlas, it's a bank of resources and uh, performance tasks that are all NGSS aligned. So there's all kinds of stuff, lessons, and a bunch of resources that support science inquiry and performance assessment. So definitely check that out if you are interested in some science resources. There was a link actually added to our website on the CAST, the California Science Test page to this Atlas website as well. So definitely recommend you check that out. And then, of course, finally, our next coffee session will be on March 10th. And all of these, all the links to register and any associated materials that are available are all on that training page, the same place where you would get the materials for today's session. All right. Educator opportunities. So, like usual, we love to make sure folks are aware that they can participate in opportunities to shape assessments in the future. So, there's a few application closing dates coming up that you should be aware of. So, February 27th is the deadline for the CSA, California Spanish Assessment Data Review Meeting. And the same day, February 27th, is the deadline for the California Science Test data review meetings for grades 5, 8, and high school. And then March 6th is the deadline for the combined alternate assessment data review meeting as well. So make sure you sign up for those if you are interested, or pass that info along to anybody who might be interested in participating in those data review meetings. Yeah, a lot of great stuff there. You can use this QR code to get to our webpage, but it's also just on our Get Involved page on the website, like usual. All right, new and updated resources. So um, I beat us to the point here for Atlas, but to just mention this again, the Authentic Tasks for Learning and Assessment in Science Bank is now available. So it features over 1,300 NGSS aligned science lessons for K through 12 that support authentic science inquiry and performance assessment. So some of the features are keyword search and filters, so you can find everything you need to really easily. Educator collaboration opportunities and educator professional learning. Uh, you can get to this bank by visiting the Atlas website. So there's a link in the resource guide and in these slides. And like I mentioned, on the CAST webpage on our website. So yeah, if you want to learn more about that, first of all, go and click around and explore the website. But also there's that webinar that I mentioned on March 5th, so you can go and register for that as well. All right, and then a couple resources that of ours that have been updated. So the guide to completion status. So all the information you might need about the completion status system, which is really important for monitoring test completion as we get into, you know, heavy testing season here. Um, all of that has been updated and added to the manuals library. And there were some changes to that completion status that a lot of them are cosmetic, but there's a few little functionality changes that back at the beginning of the administration year. So they've been in place for a long time. You might have seen them already, but some of the instructions and screenshots and stuff have been updated in that guide. So you can check that out. And then the system downtime schedule for next admin year for 2026-27 was added to our system downtime schedule webpage. So if you are curious about looking for those future um, uh, the future dates of when systems will be down next admin year. We'll be sending out communications about that as we get closer to the summer, but those are up on our website now. And then a few on-demand trainings and recordings that are up on our training page. January's coffee session, the new coordinator training webinar number 9, and a video starting monitoring and stopping a test session was updated and posted recently, as well as the test security guidelines video was actually split into 2 videos. So there's one for test coordinators um, and one for test examiners and administrators. So you can find those as well. All right. Summative alternate ELPAC participation requirements. So we get a lot of questions about this, about what actually counts as participating for the alternate assessments in general, but really specifically the summative alternate ELPAC, because you are required to test these students, and sometimes they don't respond to every single item. So we wanted to go over um, these details just to make sure that everybody understands what actually counts as participating. So a student must answer one receptive item and one expressive item in the test to be counted for participation and receive a score. And there's always the first and second questions are always one receptive item and one expressive item. So there need to be responses for at least those 2 questions for questions 1 and 2. And that it doesn't necessarily need to be a particular answer, but one of the answers can be no response. So we'll move on to the next slide that will show you exactly what that looks like. So even if the student doesn't actually answer questions 1 and 2, the test examiner can mark as no response, where you select in the contextual menu there, and there's a little icon that's a circle with a line through it that says mark as no response. That does count as a response to help meet those participation requirements. And only items that have been presented to the students should use that mark as no response. And that student should be given multiple opportunities, though, to engage with the assessment and respond to items. But those are some common questions that we get about, what actually counts as participation for that summative alternate ELPAC. All right. Let's move on to our test security topic. So I'm going to hand it over to Moses Jorge. He's going to take us through this. Hey,
Thank you
Moses.
so much, Tyler. Thank you. Appreciate that. But before everybody, thank you so much, all 253 of you. It's so nice to see such a big group here with us this afternoon. Before I move into the content, it's Tyler, poor thing, has gone through so much content. and you've sat through so much content. Let's take a minute. Let's breathe. I want to direct your attention. Take a minute to look at the Q&A, because not only if you haven't asked any questions, I know your colleagues have asked some wonderful questions. Guys, we have the wonderful opportunity. You all have the wonderful opportunity of having our colleagues from the CDE, from SCOE here. This is a wonderful time to take a minute, think through some of the things that Tyler has covered, or think through some of the things that have come to your mind as you're now coming into this LPAC season. Take a look at some of the great questions that your colleagues have asked in the Q&A. It might not have dawned on you, but as you look through them, take a look at some of the questions that have been asked. And again, we have this wonderful opportunity to have our colleagues here from the CDE, from ETS, from SCOE, that we're here to do one thing: to support you in the work that you're doing on behalf of our students. So again, as you're doing that, as you're breathing, as you're thinking through everything that Tyler has shared with you, I want to welcome you again and thank you so much, every single one of you, for what you do for our students on a daily basis. I've had the wonderful opportunity to be at three of your regions with you in the last few weeks. And boy, nothing more exciting to see our leaders so excited about the work that your teachers are doing with your students. Thank you so much. Your hard work up to this point has gotten you now ready for what we're up against in the next few weeks. And with that, I'll go ahead and start with our test security segment. Opens up with where we are right now. Timely of it being the LPAC window that just opened. And wait, I need to make one other announcement of something that's real important that I need to thank you for. For the 200 of you LEAs that just finished participating in the test security audit program. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for taking the time to engage with your sites, to engage you at the LEA with your processes. The deadline was last Friday. We appreciate greatly every single one of you and the efforts that you took to work through that process with your LEAs. If by chance anybody missed Friday's deadline, Tyler and I, the team, please, at any point in time, as soon as you can get us those surveys, we greatly appreciate the effort that you put into it and the seriousness with which you interacted with your sites around the test security audit process. Thank you guys so much. And that brings us to this. And I can't overemphasize, and I can't ask you enough, LEA coordinators, make sure in every way that you work with your sites that this information gets down to your site coordinators and to our tested examiners that are working with our students and these assessments. And believe it or not, this first bullet, it cannot be overemphasized. The importance of the fact, you'd be amazed at how much we would eliminate any issue with the administration of ELPAC if we just took so seriously the mandate that that document that we call out, that's called the DFA, is something that we cannot think of as optional. It's our guide. It's what spells out the uniformity with which our test examiners need to administer these assessments to our students. So please, make sure that we understand all the way down to our test examiners the importance of the DFAs being what we use to guide our work as we are administering any of these LPAC assessments that we're starting to engage with our students. They must be used and it's almost comical, and please use it in a way that they understand the section that says say. They really need to. It really is there in that way because we need to attend to the uniformity of how we conduct these test sessions. So the say sections, they must be followed as written. Please, for more information, if you have any questions, any follow-up questions about the DFAs, about their importance or their use or where they're found, we have links on this PowerPoint. We have links on this slide that help take you right to the documents that we are referring to that are so incredibly important that we emphasize to our test examiners. Moving right along. Thank you. This is something that I really need to make emphasis on right now because of how much work we're putting into this right now. You know those Tom's accounts that you manage, that you at the LEA help us to manage. A couple of real important points that we're wanting to really emphasize right now because of how much we're wanting to make sure that again, not only these assessments and their administration be uniform, but that we protect the integrity of the assessments that our students are taking. And so to that point, please, with regards to Tom's accounts, we're doing a lot of work with the Tom's accounts on our end, reaching out to you to help us with the management of these Tom's accounts in the appropriate way. And so, real simple to start. Please, one of the things that we need to make sure that we get down all the way to our sites with regards to the Tom's accounts, very basic starting point. They cannot be shared. I don't know how many of you remember a few years back when ETS implemented that system where you need that code whenever you log in with your Tom's account to another on another device. It all goes towards that. But please, let's make sure that we are attending to these practices and policies about a Tom's account that they cannot be shared, that they can only be used by a single authorized user. So, for starters, with those two very valuable points, but then moving right along, we need to ask for your help, LEA coordinators, with regards to Tom's accounts. Please, regularly, as especially now the year has moved along and you are well into the year and the Tom's accounts that you might have given at the beginning of the year, please continue, LEA coordinators, to monitor who has been given a Tom's account. Delete any Tom's account for people that are no longer associated with your LEAs. That again goes towards this incredibly important responsibility that collectively we all have of protecting these assessments that we have in the hands of our students to be able to show how much they have worked and learned. So please monitor Tom's accounts who no longer has a need for the account. And just as a point of reference for you to know where we are and how we work at our level. Another important thing are the emails that are associated with these Tom's accounts. Currently, we've been working with a large number of inactive emails that are associated with Tom's accounts. Please, LEA coordinators, that's part of the work that we need to ask you to help us with. Site level accounts with inactive email addresses. We are working to identify those. And in a minute, not in this section, but in the reminders, I want to connect you right now and prepare you for something that's coming up in the reminders section. Our colleagues at the CDE and us and even SCOE, we oftentimes need to communicate with you and users and send you emails. And when we get back no response or inactive emails, that creates a problem. So please, LEA coordinators, help us out, work with your accounts that you have created and that you manage, and attend to issues like deleting those accounts of people that no longer need to have them, and the issue of the email addresses that are associated with them. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, let me see if on the next slide, there's one other incredibly important detail and I don't see it on here, so I'll connect it to that last point. Not only the email address is being active, but boy, you guys would be amazed. I'm not kidding. How many Tom's accounts we're finding with the phone number of 111 1111 1111. Okay, that's another one of those very important things. A Tom's account has got to have. Yeah, no, I say it laughingly, but I wish it were. It's not. Because again, when any of us need to reach out to a Tom's account holder, we need to be able to have a valid email and a valid phone number. So it's part of the cleanup that we're doing. Not only the email, but the phone number that is associated, and it's got an asterisk. I know you guys have all noticed that that field has an asterisk. That means it has to be filled out. it just can't be filled out with all nines or all ones. It's, we're going to talk because not only does it need to have an asterisk, but maybe we need to set up some kind of a filter to where it kind of recognizes if it's 999, 9999. No, that's not going to work. So please help us out with that. That's associated with this issue of the email. But moving on to that again, LEA and site coordinators. And with regards to the Tom's account, and the access that you're giving to individuals, please remember again the issue of the seriousness of what you are putting in the hands of these individuals as it pertains especially to our students' personal identifiable information that needs to be on the top of our list of things that we help to protect. LEA coordinators, again, delete any accounts of individuals that do not need access to TOMS, especially individuals that have left your LEA, retired, or moved, and the roles that they have. Please attend to that. LEA coordinators, again, if you need any support, and I can't go on without again reminding every single one of you, your success agents, our incredible team of success agents, are there to support you every step of the way with these issues, including if for any reason you need any support around your Tom's account management, please reach out to your success agents. Those hearts that are flying, I can't tell you how much I appreciate, how much you guys appreciate your success agents because it is true. They are your lifesaver day by day in the work that you're doing as we enter, especially this summative assessment season. So please reach out to your success agents. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, no, another very important last, I think, part about test security. We are at the point where we need to make sure LEA coordinators, for all of you that have attended, to start at the top by setting the example with your LEA Moodle certifications. Thank you so much. If any of you have not, please attend to from the very top of at the LEA to making sure that you are starting by setting the example of attending to your mandatory ELPAC Moodle trainings. And then from there down, we cannot ask you enough heartfelt from us to you LEA coordinators as you manage your trainings. And then take a second, think this through. Not only as you manage your trainings, LEA coordinators of your site coordinators, but then probably the other most important thing are your test examiners that are administering ELPAC to our students. And the importance of the fact that, especially as it pertains to the speaking domain, that has specific grade level and grade span calibration that needs to be done. We need to ask that collectively, please, we all attend to making sure that every single student that's being administered the ELPAC is having it administered by someone who is trained to make sure that they are giving our students the correct opportunity to be able to show how much they have worked and how much they have learned. So please, our Moodle training is so important that we emphasize that and that we attend to it from the top all the way down to our test examiners that are working with our students. And now, Tyler, if I'm not mistaken,
Are
I
you finally
hand it over
done?
to you. Yes, thank you.
The only question in there, Moses, that I thought would be good to just address before we go on is first, um, as far as the um, inactive accounts or old accounts for people that have left or whatever else. People asking exactly what they should do with those accounts. But I think basically you can either deactivate them or delete them as long as they're inactive in some way, right? And if you're
Yeah,
not sure how to do that, you can always contact your success agent.
yes,
Um,
definitely so. Either one, folks, by all means, please. either one of those, delete it or
Yeah, help us with
deactivate
that
it.
cleanup. Yeah.
Yes, that cleanup is what is most important.
Yeah, and then for phone numbers, we've said a couple times, and I know you emphasized again today that the fake phone numbers are a problem, but you can put in if folks don't have a direct line, you can put in your school's primary phone or a secretary or whoever whatever phone number will at least get us to your office and let us leave a message or have someone forward us on to the right phone number. So that is an option too. If you don't have a direct line, or for test examiners and test administrators and things like that, they can just put the general school number too, right?
And folks, just out of common courtesy to avoid to just and it's for your protection and it's for your well-being in that the quicker we can get a hold of you, the quicker we together can work out any issue that brings us to needing to reach out to you. We don't need your personal cell phone number or your home number, no, by no means, but
Right.
just the number that you know is going to allow us to connect with you as directly and quickly as possible. Any
Yep.
other questions that come up, Tyler, or
I
any
think
other
that's
point of
it for now.
emphasis,
Yeah.
my friends and colleagues from the CDE or any other or ETS, any other points of emphasis that you guys think we should throw in at this point, please?
Yeah. I think that's good.
Good.
We'll definitely let you know if anything else pops
Thank
up.
you. Thank you, Tyler.
Yeah, thank you, Moses. And yeah, to complete the security topic, we'll move on to stairs and hear from Vincent to give us a little bit of insight into stairs
Mhm.
for this month.
Thank you, Tyler. Hi, everyone. I am Vincent Jaramillo, the lead on the stair system and test securities that don't involve Moses. Um, I'm just here to talk to you a little bit today. I have two topics. One of them I apologize because I've kind of beat it over your guys' head for the last 3 months about the new demographic stairs, the new demographic errors for stairs. But the reason we want to have it here is because, of course, this just went live for you guys when we came back on January 20th from the system resume. So to really to sink it in there, this stairs is now available for you all. And this is to correct any demographic errors that you might find when it comes to an incorrect first name, last name, date of birth, things of that nature. And then that you will continue to submit administered incorrect assessment stairs cases for incorrect grade levels, primary languages, and English language acquisition status, or ELAS. Um, Once again, as a reminder, of course, demographic fields are locked when any CAASPP or ELPAC summative assessment has started. That includes our alternate assessments as well. So please be mindful of any accommodations or any other supports that a student might need who will be taking an ELPAC test at a later date than their CAASPP assessments. And then finally, this one is actually more prudent to the actual stair system. It's really important that when we are filing our stairs cases, that we are giving a true description of the incident that occurred. We should not be copying and pasting the selections that are offered in stairs as the reason for the opportunity to be reset or reopened. We really want to make sure that when we are filing these things, especially when we are giving a plan of action, that this is detailing what action is going to be taken by the LEA so that these things are not happening in the future. I think that's it for me, Tyler. Thank you.
Thank you, Vincent. All right. And now we'll talk about a few things that are driving calls to the success agents and our call center, and I'll hand it over to Sylvia for that.
Thank you, Tyler. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. So I have a couple of call drivers that I'm going to share to you all from your success agents. The first one being the pagination stimuli. And so the first is regarding the CAASPP and ELPAC items. They share a single stimulus. such as a reading passage or a recording. So it's important to remember that recordings for paginated items can only be played once for all associated items. For example, the stimuli could appear for the student on the left side of the screen, and it applies to the tabbed items on the right side. So it could look like those tabbed items on the right side. It could be questions 3 and 4, which share that same paginated stimuli. And then an example, lastly on this one, not another example, but unless the student has the embedded designated supportive pause or replay audio, that stimuli can only be played once. And so it's important to know that if your student is someone that currently uses that in their daily instruction and will be also using it for testing, that prior to them accessing that test, that they do have it assigned within TOMS prior to opening up that test. Okay, and then this is going to bring us to a really big topic that I feel like comes up every year, at least a couple of times, both in the initial ELPAC season as well as the summative ELPAC season. And it's simply knowing the difference between the summative ELPAC speaking test delivery system, the TDS, which is going to be your actual speaking domain test, versus the data entry interface, so the speaking DEI. And so we all know that the speaking test is both two parts. It's the test and it's also scoring the test within the DEI. And so it's important to note that the test examiners must follow the directions for administration and be sure that the speaking portion is submitted in the TDS, which is the test delivery system, prior to submitting the DEI score. If the DEI score is submitted prior to submitting the test portion, that assessment will be locked and no longer accessible. This is something that we run into every year. We do get teachers that freak out because they can no longer access that. So it's important that you guys emphasize this to your sites, emphasize it to your site coordinators, and make sure that they are aware that speaking tests should be submitted in the test delivery system prior to doing the DEI. And then, of course, once that test is finished, just make sure that the scores are entered into the DEI as soon as possible. If they can't do it same day, it's okay for them to do it the next day, so long as it's completed. And that's all I've got for you guys today. Make sure to join us on the 25th for your Connect for Success. Thank you, Tyler.
Thank you, Sylvia.
Mhm.
All right. And to go over a few items that are showing up in the LEA coordinator checklist for this month, this time of year, I'll hand it over to Michael.
Thank you, Tyler. Hello, all. Thank you for joining us. This is just a reminder that we have a resource available to you all, the LEA Coordinator Checklists. Those are available from the public site, casp-lpac.org, towards the top right corner, Training and Communication, left-hand side under Training, Coordinator How-To Hub, and you'll see those land at the top, broken down by each program, CASP and LPAC. And we do break them down by month. Again, you're welcome to get ahead of most tasks, but this is just to keep you on track if you need that little reminder. This time of year, we're really stressing that you confirm that your TOMS users and your non-TOMS users have signed the appropriate security forms, either logging directly into TOMS to sign the security forms for your test administrators, or for your non-TOMS administrators, signing the non-TOMS security affidavit PDFs. Those are available and you can print and keep local track of those. We also are looking for you to verify that your site administration schedules are on track, right? You have the whole summative window to administer the summative LPAC from February 1st to May 31st. And so you're welcome to test within that window. We do encourage you to test sooner than later in case you run into any issues or if there's any makeup tests that need to be done. Also, notifying parents and guardians of the upcoming testing. And then this is a big one. Ensure testing staff is trained prior to the administration of the assessments, right? Because that's just going to help with the smoothest administration possible. So again, just a few tasks. You're welcome to those resources. And like we said, read ahead, get ahead of those tasks. So we'll be here if you need us. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. All right, just finishing up with a couple ongoing reminders here. things that we just want to include to make sure they're on everybody's radar. Reclassification is a big thing right now at this time of year, so make sure that you are up to date on reclassifying your students as necessary with what information you have, and you can go to the CDE reclassification webpage for more information on that. And then, of course, ensuring that the CAA for Science is being administered throughout the administration year. We know this is, kind of a constant task for coordinators to check on progress for that, but those embedded performance tasks as part of the CAA for Science are supposed to be administered immediately after the student receives that content instruction. So a reminder to check on that.
Tyler, can I interrupt for just a second?
Sure, yes.
And it was to the first bullet that, and I knew I even brought it up, especially for any of our LEA coordinators that might be new. If you have not, with regards to reclassification, a year or two ago, ETS and the CDE created for you. And if you haven't visited the reports menu in TOMS, an incredibly valuable report, and I put it in the chat, and my team, if the people can't see it in the chat, if somebody will place it in the Q&A, I don't know exactly where they'll see it, but this is the time. There's a report in TOMS, incredibly valuable report that was created for you that is called the ELPAC Students Meeting Reclassification Criteria 1 Report. Okay, take a second. As it relates to Tyler's reminder on the first bullet, as it relates to reclassification and the work that you're doing with your students, please take time to visit your TOMS dashboard, the reports menu, and that report is invaluable right now. And I saw that we have some first year brand new coordinators. As I mentioned that, I need to re-mention, and our colleague from the CDE actually said this to that new coordinator, please reach out to your success agent. For the million and one things that you right now are thinking, what am I doing, including this report, please reach out to your success agent if you need to be walked through anything, but including this report. This is an incredibly valuable time for us all to use this report for exactly what this reminder is letting you know. Attending right now to the reclassification of your students is critical and timely. Thank you, Tyler.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks, Moses. And yeah, I think Sylvia did put the link to that, the meeting reclassification criteria 1 report in the chat there. So I think the only last little reminder is about, or a couple about allow listing. There have been a couple emails recently that have come out from the CDE directly. So these some, of course, we email you all a ton, we know, and then there's a bunch of emails that are coming at you from all different inboxes, but specifically these CDE email addresses will occasionally send important messages. So make sure that you allow the ELPAC at cde.ca.gov and the CAASPP at cde.ca.gov email addresses, so those aren't getting caught in any kind of filters that you have at your districts. And then there's a bunch of other URLs that often need to be allow listed for testing, and you can find a list of all of those URLs in our tech specs guide. The link is again here in the slide and should be in your resource guide as well if you don't know where to find that in our manuals library. I think that's the end of our prepared topics. We've got a little bit of time to get to all the questions that we haven't answered yet, and I have a couple here marked to bring up. So the first one, there were a couple questions about the CAST, the California Science Test, and someone asking if students who had a parent guardian exemption or uh, an NCE, a medical testing or medical status exemption. I forget exactly what that stands for. But if they had an exemption in grade 11 for the science test, they're not automatically assigned in grade 12. Um, and the person was asking if they need to go and manually assign them, but they do not. That for the cast, if they have an exemption in the 10th or 11th grade, that does count as their opportunity. So they would not need to take it again, or be registered to take the cast. Hopefully that should answer that question, but let us know if you have follow-ups on that. Um, the other question I saw there was a comment about the um, the teacher hand scoring system and ELPAC tests that are pending scoring. And this is actually a new feature in the THSS this year that we've communicated about in a couple places, and I believe the video is up to date with some new features in the THSS where you can filter by assessment. Um, so that's just something to notice. I know that a lot of coordinators have mentioned before that they have to kind of wade through a bunch of interim assessment responses that are sitting in the THSS waiting to be scored. Um, and when they're really looking for the initial or summative LPAC things that end up in there.
Tyler,
But yes,
I just
Tracy.
want to be clear. We
Oh
do
yeah.
not score any summative LPAC.
Yes. I
Sorry.
said that and I had a thing go off in my mind and you beat me to it. Yeah, thank you, Tracy, for clarifying that. Yes. For initial LPAC only, um, you can filter by that assessment though and not see the interim assessments. But it also is maybe a good reminder depending on how your LEA handles the interim assessments. I think Harriet was saying that they try to tell teachers to not give a hand scored interim if they don't intend to score it. That's up to you how you all sort of handle the interim assessments. But another thing to consider there. Let's see if others have questions marked that they'd like to answer, feel free to jump in. Looking through a few things
Dr.
here.
Jennings, did you have a question that you wanted to answer live?
Oh, no, I think I might have clicked that button on accident and couldn't unclick it. Sorry.
Okay, no,
That was
no
my
problem.
fault.
I just saw that on there and wanted to check. Okay.
Let's see here.
But you know what? Actually, I think you guys just addressed that. It was about the hand
Oh
scoring
yeah, about the
and
hand scoring.
yes, but it also is a little bit CASP as well. So, it has interim in there. It's a big question. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and hopefully that filtering functionality, and just the THSS in general, I think has improved a lot this year with some of those new features. But if you have any more feedback about that, about how well that works or doesn't, feel free to send that to us. We are always collecting feedback to try to make things better for sure. Let's see. Oh, hi, Devin. I see you came on camera.
Yeah,
You
hey
want to jump
Tyler,
in?
I'll jump in real quick. I see there's a question regarding any new information on the new or revised ALDs, and there is going to be some communication materials and resources delivered to LEAs prior to results. So it'll happen kind of early spring. All those resources are currently being finalized and still under development. But yes, the revised ALDs for Smarter Balanced ELA, Smarter Balanced Mathematics, and the California Science Test will go into effect with the reporting of results for this year. And so you'll see that information on the score reports and the data files when we release the results to the public in October. All that information. So those resources will be sent out early this spring. There's also a few questions earlier. I just wanted to just reaffirm. I know there's several questions about accountability and the dashboard, and just want to remind folks that the dashboard technical guide is a great resource for those questions. Also, the dashboard office, you can always contact them regarding any accountability questions. Their email is dashboard@cde.ca.gov. And regarding just kind of testing at this time, our guidance is to test 100% of your students. The goal is to test all students, not to prioritize administration based on what you think your dashboard is going to be. But if they're enrolled and the window's open, go ahead and test them. Okay. Thanks, Tyler.
Thank you, Devin. I appreciate that. Okay, I want to bring back up hand scoring because there's a sort of related issue that a few folks have asked about. And it's really good that we clarified that the summative ELPAC does not require hand scoring on the LEA's part, right? It is, any scoring that takes place. And this has come up
for writing, Tyler.
Right.
Hand scoring for
Right.
writing.
Right. And the reason this has come up a little bit lately is because in the completion status system, there is a status for those certain tests that says hand scoring as the status of that test. And I think that's a change from how it used to be displayed. I'm still trying to get 100% clarity on exactly how that is working, but at the very least, we just wanted to make it clear that if you see that hand scoring as a status for a summative ELPAC domain, that does not mean that it's in the THSS. That I believe it, and hopefully someone can confirm this, but I believe that just means that it's in the scoring phase behind the scenes, right? It's not a field facing hand scoring is required for you all. So I'm gonna make sure to get 100% clear on exactly what that is, whether we need to communicate that separately for you all. But yeah, I saw a few folks asking about that, seeing that status in the completion status system or tied. Yeah, that does not
Tyler,
reflect.
let's plan to add it to the March communication to coordinators, just to confirm all of the requirements around hand scoring for both speaking and writing, as well as those reports. I think that would, help the districts out a lot.
Definitely, yeah. Yeah, thanks for that clarity. All right, we got a few minutes left here. Oh, I did see this question about the fact that Google is getting rid of or they're changing some of the ways that apps work on Chromebooks and Chrome OS. I believe there's a kind of a major change that's supposed to come this summer to Chrome OS. That should not affect testing this year. I believe that the latest secure browser already addresses this. And we've sent out communications about updating the secure browser this year if you have a certain version of Chrome OS. But we'll make sure that if there are any options, any changes that are needed on your part, like this summer before testing next year, if there's anything that requires change, we'll definitely let you know. But yeah, that should not affect any kind of testing this year. But it is a good reminder to make sure and test your secure browser situation and your installations for this year, because there still is that there's two versions of the secure browser based on which operating system you have installed on if you use Chromebooks at your LEA. And we've had several folks reach out to our success agents over the past couple months, I think, about getting certain errors when launching the secure browser. And most of the time, that's the issue. It's just the different version that they need installed. So we always highly recommend that you use practice tests or the interim assessments with the secure browser itself to test that, right, and make sure that you're set up for testing this year.
Hey, Tyler, there's something I wanted to go back to really quick. I just wanted to throw out there. It's a little bit of an underused resource that's been around for some time now, a few administrations, but I find it helpful when I'm helping our LEA coordinators and they reach out by whatever means to ask about the scoring and which domain tests require it when it comes to the Summit of LPAC. I'm actually going to drop it into the chat. It's called our Where to Submit Answers for the LPAC. This resource is housed on our website under the resources tab, administer the test administration. I'm going to drop in here. It's a really great visual that's broken down by both initial LPAC and the Summit of LPAC. It breaks it down by the grade level or the grade span, as well as the domain test. It gives you a visual of how that test is going to be scored if it requires scoring. So this is a really great resource that's been around, and I want to throw it out there into the universe so that it becomes used again. Thank you.
For sure. Yeah. Thank you, Sylvia. Yeah, I know that that is a handy thing to reference. And kind of connected back to that issue about the hand scoring status. I don't want to, I'm trying not to go too deep into it without knowing the complete situation. But I saw that Candace put in our Q&A that it's the speaking portion without entry in the DEI that's showing up as a status of hand scoring. So that might be something to be aware until we, put together that final communication that makes it into maybe our March communication, that you're on top of any tests that are submitted in the testing interface, but the scores haven't been entered in the DEI. I mean, that's always something that we try to remind folks, of course, right? That you should be submitting, you should be entering responses into the DEI either during the test or immediately after. And so it sounds like that might be contributing to some of the confusion as well. So that is something to be aware of. Thanks, Candace, for that. Let's see. We've got a ton of questions answered in the background. Thank you so much to all of the ETS and CDE folks that are answering those while we're live. Ton of questions going on right now. So make sure to check if you have submitted a question. You can go and see any responses to that. Let's see here. And yeah, I saw a couple questions about training in Moodle and getting the right certificates. Let's see, if you have a trainer certificate and need to model support testing with students, do you need additional certification for TAs based on the grade level? So for
It's just for CAASPP, and I think it's just a one size fits all. It's not per grade level.
right, yeah. Yeah, for TAs doing CAASPP, right? The training is kind of up to you as a coordinator as far as what you use. You can use the Moodle TA tutorial that we have, but there's other things like that. But most of the time that, it does not depend on grade level. And of course, for ELPAC, there are separate calibration and training portions in the Moodle courses that are applicable to the different grade bands or grade levels that you're administering as well. We are about out of time. We'll look into whether we can answer any of these last questions. But of course, if you did not get a question answered, you can always go to your success agents. I know that Moses always sings their praises, and I definitely support all of that. They have been so great handling a ton of issues that have come up here and there, and they will always get you a solution or an answer to your questions. So please reach out to your success agents if you need follow-up on anything that you brought up here today on the coffee session. And yeah, I think to respect everybody's time and let you get on with your day and all the stuff you got going on, we will let you all go. Really appreciate your time that you spent with us here today, and we look forward to seeing you either in various trainings or next month on March 10th for our next coffee session. Thank you all so much. Appreciate it.